we have the great honor to present you tonight White Hills. Can you see the White Hills there?
I see some over here. Or there's some out the window in the back.
Igor, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Dave,
nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for giving us some minutes to have a little interview with you, and thank you very much that you've been here. I just already heard it's not your first time in Switzerland.
Correct.
But may please introduce like this. We have many very, very young people, and some people perhaps don't know even till today, but in the future they will know the band White Hills. Can you explain a little bit at the beginning, a little bit of your band history?
Well, both of us, we met in San Francisco in the 90s. And then we were both playing in bands. That kind of music scene that we were involved in kind of died out. Both of us still wanted to play music. Ego had the idea to move to New York. Came along. And then oh, excuse me.
No problem.
Both of us were kind of doing our own projects at the time. Really wasn't doing much. Not much was happening. One day I just kind of got fed up with what I was involved in and went about recording a record, which was the first White Hills record. And then basically through that record there was interest, and so I put the band together.
And we really started off playing in the UK. We played a show in London opening for Julian Cove, and that was our first show that we did. And then we started touring in the UK quite a bit, so that's really where we got our start.
Yeah, both of us, had spent a lot of time playing in America and touring in America, and my big thing was I didn't want to go through the hassle or the time to try to make it in America, and where I wanted to play was in Europe, so we just focused on Europe, and that was where we had our first kind of stronghold.
And what kind of musical influence did you have in your personal biography? Which artists did a little bit influence you?
Oh, Lord.
So we both listened to so many different kinds of music.
Or kind of sort of musical style?
Well, for me, with starting the band, I've always been into spacey music. I've always been into kind of music that puts you in a trance. I've also always been into really heavy music. So I really wanted to take something that was heavy but was trance-inducing as well. So that was my basis of what I wanted to do with this record. So, there's all kinds of, from bands like Hawkwind, to post-punk stuff like Public Image.
UFO also, or was it too early?
UFO? No. Well, to be honest with you, I actually personally, I like the Michael Schenker era of UFO better than what someone would look at as the space rock era. Or who was it? I think it was Michael Bolton.
Rock Bottom. And,
yeah, exactly. That stuff, I like that. That's the UFO I like. I think those first couple of records that are that are considered to be their spacey albums. They're good, but if I'm gonna put on a UFO record, it's gonna be Phenomenon or something.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so many different things. The Flaming Lips. There's not one record. The one record that made me want to make music that was strange was The Fall. My sister got me a Fall record, and it was the strangest music I'd ever heard, and it made me want to create something different. But there's so many different things that I love listening to. Nick Cave, Led Zeppelin, you name it.
Okay. And how did you get contact with your instruments you play? How did you learn it, or what was the decision to take, for example, that kind of guitar, or...
Yeah, well, I wanted to play drums first. That was the first thing I wanted to play, and when I approached my parents about it when I was a kid, they were like, no way am I going to have my kid banging on drums. So I picked up the trumpet, which was ended up being a worse instrument to try to learn. For my parents, that is, all the noise. But then around the time I was 11, 12, I really wanted to play guitar. And so by the time I was 13, my parents bought me a guitar for my birthday and got me some lessons. I ended up not liking the lessons, maybe took lessons for about 3-4 months. But out of taking those lessons, I had enough structure of what the instrument was to then sit down with records at home and just figure out how to play the songs that I wanted to play. And that's really how I learned how to play guitar.
And you play today what kind?
Well, I play Gibsons.
Okay.
You know.
Really good traditional.
Yeah, I've gone through various guitars. You know, it was when I was younger. The first electric guitar I bought was a Gibson. But then I went into Fenders and
also very good.
yeah, but you know, it's a whole different beast. And I like Gibsons better. And I think playing as a 3-piece, it's like Gibsons have a lower, heavier sound to them. So I think like it fills up the space a lot.
And you?
Well, I was trained as a child on piano, and then as a teenager I really wanted to play guitar so that I could learn to play Led Zeppelin songs. So I picked it up and taught myself on a classical guitar. And I ended up picking up bass sort of by default through playing with Dave, White Hills, and I really love it now.
Okay, and going back to the band, a typical, unfortunately, a question I think everybody hears every time. How did you define the name? This is the actual record, White Hills.
White Hills. Well, are you familiar with a man from Switzerland called, I'm going to grossly mispronounce his name, Walter Wegmüller.
Wegmüller, yeah, you did it very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was a poet, and he would hand draw tarot cards.
Okay.
Okay.
Crawley tarot, you know?
What's that?
Crowley? Lester Crowley tarot?
No, not evil. I don't think it was evil. Okay. But so he was fairly well known. It's just kind of a drifter, poet, draw tarot. He now we're going to step into Germany, progressive era, 1970s. There was a producer who had put together some records of a bunch of different musicians under the title of Cosmic Jokers. Okay? So basically, this producer took those people from, you know, it's like Klaus Schulze, Manuel Gottschalk, various other people within the scene, and did a record with Walter Wegmüller called Tarot, in which they jammed, and then he would read his poetry based upon his deck of tarot. Okay, so at the very beginning of this album, the producer is introducing everyone in the band. Okay, and the band's like jamming, so you know, when he introduces Manuel, like, you know, he does like a little guitar lick, and when he introduces Klaus Schulze, he does like a little synthesizer thing. But then when he's introducing Walter, he says, "The man from Switzerland, from the White Hills, Walter Wegmüller." So, there you go.
Sometimes it's a very, very interesting thing how band names become a band name, so to say.
Yeah.
So, what else is good? Did you know that Melissa Auf der Mauer, you know the bass player?
Yeah.
The name Auf der Mauer means from the heißt Mauer. Mauer is
it's not off the wall?
Off the wall, yeah.
Yeah.
She has also relatives from Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
This is the original name from Switzerland, and I think she's Canadian, but her relative went to Canada and was a grandfather, I think about that. But she told me also, so you're in a good relationship, good society with it, and good tradition. And I read that you you played all the instruments on the debut album, is this right?
Yes.
So, Wikipedia is true.
Well, no.
Sometimes.
I would not trust it.
No, but wasn't it difficult to play every instrument together?
No, well, you know, no, because basically the drums on it are things that I like kind of patched together with stuff. So it was mainly more studio editing.
Okay.
For that aspect of it.
Okay.
I mean, I can play the drums. Both of us can play the drums.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ego can play them a bit better than I can.
Well, I don't know.
But you know, it's like we both can keep a beat. You know, but really like that the drums on that record were spliced together. So that's why like there's a couple of songs on that record where if you like really sit down and listen to them, the time signature it gets very strange. Because of where I spliced drum parts together. It wasn't necessarily within like an even sequence, you know. So, yeah.
And how do you normally create songs and lyrics? Is there a special process you do it, or is it before the lyrics and then the melody, or is
No, the music.
starts mostly?
The majority of the time, the music comes first.
Yeah.
We have a few albums that really came out of improvising. We were in the studio playing and happened to be recording, and we captured something that we really liked and didn't want to try again because we had captured the essence of the song and it was exactly what we wanted. And so those things we released as they were. Something like our new album, that's something most of the material.
Again. So you are, so you'll be.
We did work out that material before going into the studio, and in fact a lot of it we even worked out sort of as we were touring, as we were playing shows on the road.
You know, there's also like a fair amount of composition that happens like after things are even recorded. Okay, so it's like the song on the record's Rare Upon the Earth. Okay, actually what is the beginning of the song was the end of the song. And so within like kind of me sitting down and listening to it and going about producing it, I didn't like the way that the song was sounding in the direction that we had learned it. Okay. So I then start splicing and cutting and editing and kind of start throwing things around and seeing how things fit. And so it's like that's a perfect example of a song that, you know, it changes like within the process of actually working on it. And then also a lot of the songs on the record were a lot longer, you know, and then those things there's certain parts of it that end up getting cut out, and, you know, or lengths become shorter, you know, based upon like how I feel it's kind of sitting. But, you know, basically, really, like, what kind of happens is either one of us will have some kind of a riff or something, and we'll come into rehearsal and, you know, start to play it and kind of see how see how it sits and whatnot. Lyrics always end up coming last, but I'm constantly, like, writing lyrics, not necessarily for something specific, but I'm constantly writing down, you know, bits and pieces.
Sometimes moments with creativity.
Yeah, exactly. You know, bits and pieces of things here and there, and then a lot of the lyrical content is another thing. It's, you know, it gets cut up, chopped up. How does it fit? Does it fit in this way? You know, was it best to say it as wordy as it is, or, you know, should it be cut down? What's the real essence of it? You know, and Ego's the master at that. She's constantly taking my lyrics and being like, no, it's gonna fit better like this, like, you know, so.
Why the name Ego? How was that? She told me to ask it.
Well, I've sort of become fascinated with the idea of, in our modern culture, how people have become so obsessed with their egos.
Yes.
People have become their own celebrities.
Yeah.
that whole line of who you can be your own celebrity. You put up your Facebook page and then you post every moment some new thing happens to you. And so this idea of ego in general becoming this overwhelming thing, that we all have these enormous egos. And so I liked that concept, and I liked the idea of me being a person on stage and sort of rising above that and putting myself on that platform of a sensational ego up on a stage in its place. So that's,
So
concept.
ego, it goes ego. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, very good idea. And currently you have been touring with the cult.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it the first time with the cult?
Yeah.
And how was it to
Yeah, it was
work with
amazing.
Ian Nestor?
Yeah, it was amazing. Ian's a fan of ours. And that's, exactly. That's why we got asked. So, to have someone like that, appreciate what you do, it's like, it validates, it really validates kind of that you're doing something that is right,
Absolutely. I want to just ask, is it for a personal art at that moment when you're going the first time on the stage, first concert with the car, then when you're remarking that, hey, fucking good, okay, I'm doing the right way in my life.
Well,
is it a little bit, sorry, it's too emotional.
No. I mean,
is it then a little bit like that?
No,
Perhaps
I
not that
think-
moment, but yeah.
Well, I think that there's various moments, that happen that like kind of just reaffirm in your mind that like, you could, here, I'll step back. You could sit there and you can make a record and you can sell like a million copies of that record, okay? And what does that mean? Is like actually physically selling that much, like your validation, and is your validation some kind of monetary system? Or do you do what you do because you feel like it's an art? And it's like it's your art and you are an artist. Okay, so to have someone who has been a commercial success, but who is also very much about being an artist, okay? It's interesting because with Ian, it's like he's had both, okay?
Yeah.
So he hears something in you that gets his artistic side going. But I also think that, like, that those guys have had huge commercial success. So I think that he also hears potential within that as well. But it's like Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips is like a fan of ours. And that guy's like a huge artist, and to have him like what you do is very reaffirming in the sense of like you making an artistic statement versus making some kind of a commercial statement, having Jim Jarmusch like what you do, and you look at like the kind of work that Jim Jarmusch has done, and like, that guy's like the artiste, and so for me, those are the things that like kind of reaffirm to me that like I am doing an art that speaks to someone, and speaks to someone who makes like an art that has spoken to me.
My question was more for the heart and less for the commercial.
Well, no, I don't. Speaking of it in the terms of art, is the heart.
Wait.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, it's like for me, it's like whatever, it's like to have someone like Wayne Coyne, to have someone like Ian Astbury, to have someone like Jim Jarmusch, like what you do. It's like that means more to me than necessarily like selling 1 million copies of a record, because I don't, if I wanted to sell 1 million copies of a record, I wouldn't be making the kind of music like. Not to say, that I.
No, I understand
you know what I mean, because it's not something to. It's not Justin Timberlake. It's not Lady Gaga. Yeah. So it's like it's more about it being
That's
an
real
art.
music.
Yeah, and it's
Real
like
good
I
rock
mean,
and roll
the whole
music.
thing, the cover, like all
Yeah.
aspects of it. It's like it's a whole package. It's a whole artistic statement. It's like I look at each record as like it is the masterwork portrait of that era of whatever we're doing.
Two special question to you.
Yeah.
I always try to sum at least one question which is exceptional and not everybody's asking it. Which is the most fuck my English. What is the most difficult song to play from this record live? In technical way or from your whole songs you have, and why?
Well, I think that the most difficult song to play from this record is Rare Upon the Earth. And it's not because it's difficult to play in any way for any of us, but it requires sort of a special energy to happen.
Okay.
Because sometimes it just doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, it just doesn't translate. It's I put records together specifically for sitting down and like listening to a record in your home. Okay, I don't put a record together to mimic what our live show is. Okay, so this tour we've been pretty much playing the record. Okay, there are certain things on the record that we don't add in, which like the electronic bits and whatnot. So it's all just studio stuff. But some nights you can see what translates well within the live performance, and listening to the record, you understand how the record fits together well within sitting in your home and listening to it. Okay, so that's the interesting thing for me with this, because we've never actually tried to play like a new record in as much of its entirety as possible. It's always been like picking and choosing things from throughout the career. So it's like with this, I really wanted to try to do something different, just not for us, because we've been touring so much.
You like the touring more than the studio work, or it depends?
Yeah,
it's good.
They're
both
both great.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
both have their benefits and they
So
both
if you
have their drawbacks.
if you do one thing too long, then you like to do the other again. No?
It's not so much that. I mean, we typically don't spend a lot of time in the studio. So, and for me personally, the more rewarding part is getting out on the road and playing the music for people. In a studio, you aren't getting anybody's reaction, and that's a huge part of. I would probably be both of us would be creating music whether anybody was listening or not. But the fact that people are listening and getting to see people's reactions it's a huge gift, really.
Yeah, definitely.
I find it always so interesting how some songs, what is the history behind them. Do you know the song Captain Nemo from Michael Schenker, perhaps? It's an instrumental song, it's not very well known. But
No.
It's also during that time phenomenon. And he wrote it as a fast instrumental piece, and I asked him, it's my favorite song, how did you create it? It was such a good song. And he said, he was playing in the evening and suddenly some side was broken down. Is it a side is one of the
Oh,
one string, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. And so he was forced to continue composing with 5 sides. So and this song was. Do you have any curious history of one song about your career? Definitely.
Oh God,
Perhaps any funny history or.
Not really. I mean, I can't think of anything, because it's like when I'm at home, and if I'm at home,
It was in the 70s when you had no computer and so on, so sorry for the question.
Well, it does make me think, it's not on this album, but we have a song called Dead that's on a self-titled album that we did, and there's this great part in the song where the drummer that was playing with us at the time, Kid Millions from Oneida, a Brooklyn band, we were at the sort of apex of the song, and he dropped a stick. We were recording, and so there's this break in the song that we're all initially thinking, oh, we're gonna have to do another take. You know, he dropped a stick, he missed a beat. And we listened back to it, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect because it created a dynamic that we didn't know needed to be there. So it happened by accident, and now I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah.
It sounds good, and so now when we play that song live, we play it exactly like that. But it was an accident. I think there's probably a lot of other instances of that. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about creating stuff is you have an accident or you have a limitation, you lose a string. And it's all about working with the limitations that you have because, you know, sometimes there's artists that they've got great studios and they have all the equipment at their disposal. And when you have so much to work with, sometimes that limits your mind in some way because there's so many possibilities. How can you possibly stop anywhere?
Yeah, like that era that when we were playing with Kid, that era was, I think, like a really magical era for this band because there was so much. Like, we recorded every time we rehearsed, and there was so much material that came out of that era due to just by chance. You know, it's like, oh my, you know, we'd get down there and we would, you know, before really even like talking much, after, hey, how you doing? And then we just plug our instruments in, and then we'd start playing 45 minutes later, you know, and then you go back and you listen to what you recorded and you're like, oh my God. You know, it's like, I can't believe, it felt good, but it didn't feel this good, you know, so it's like, those to me, that era was like really magical, you know, and
I can understand, that's a dream for going down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm a old school rock and roll guy, so that I like that inspiration, always that spirit. So, and in the future, what are you're on the tour at the moment? Touring Europe, and is there anything you can say what will happen in the next time after the tour? You'll make relaxing a little bit, or?
Well, not too much.
Okay.
We're in Jim Jarmusch's new film. It's called Only Lovers Left Alive. We play ourselves in the film. There's a performance scene where the main characters come to see us. The film is released in Europe in December.
Yeah, I think in December.
And there's been talk of doing some shows around the release of the movie. So nothing's totally confirmed yet, but it looks like we'll be back in Europe in December to do some things. And outside of that, I think we just kind of need to sleep.
We're gonna get back to New York, take a nap,
and then figure out what's going
next.
Go back to the Big Apple and then sleep at the Big Apple.
Exactly.
Relax a little bit. And, where can the people find you at the web?
It's whitehillsmusic.tumblr.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And on Facebook. All you gotta do is...
We absolutely will do it also with subtitles, of course. Absolutely. And so...
And also at thrilljockey.com, the record label.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I will show it again.
Oh, that's the back.
Hey. Yeah, we have always to see the back and the front side. This is the front, and this is the LP. Jungs, Mädels, kauft diese sympathische Band und seht sie live. Verpasst ihr das nächste Mal nicht. And I say thank you very much. It's a great honor.
Yep, thank you for having us.
Begin with a woman. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm an old school guy. Keep on rocking, stay tuned.
Yeah, Chris, thank you.
Keep on rocking, stay tuned. It was a nice pleasure to meet you, and
likewise.
All the best for you. Keep on rocking, and last question is, are you interested in perhaps playing sometimes a concert with Michael Schenker?
Oh God, I never even thought about it. I think he'd blow me out of the water. I'd be like, what am I doing?
No, because he's staying in Europe meanwhile as his main station, and the company I do with it know him very well. So perhaps if you're interested, I can.
Sure, yeah, of course, why not?
No problem.
Yeah.
And even his brother, I know him better, Rolf Schenker. So they will do something together, I think in the next year. So, but we'll stay in contact. But keep on rocking, stay tuned. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's better. I think it was really a nice session.
Thank you.